Welcome everyone to the iiConCast. I'm the inexorable one, David. Across from me is the impossible one to deal with, Matt. Holy cow, what a week it's been.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I have to say that for wrestling, this has been one of the busier weeks, and that's just in WWE. Let's start our weekly wrap-up.
Start Elimination Chamber.
So I think the obvious stories here are going to be the Elimination Chamber matches themselves. If you had to rank them, I'm not saying like, you know, of the 20 Elimination Chamber matches there's been, but like, where do these sit?
You know, you can never go back on your first one. The first one's always going to be a special one. You think back to the first ever Elimination Chamber for the guys. That you remember that one. You remember RVD jumping off. You remember those moments. Men's side, maybe not one of the more memorable ones, but yeah, it's not like you had Santino Marella in there. You had 7 guys that technically you could put in the main event of WrestleMania and have a great match.
Yeah, that's something that WWE's getting this year they're on the right track with it, where they're putting people in matches where they belong. Like the upper mid cards, like even putting Miz, who's the IC champ, who we all kind of went like, he's not winning this, but it's like, you know what, the Miz could win this, and the Miz could headline WrestleMania because he's done it.
Well, the perfect example in that match was Elias.
Yeah,
Elias has not. You're not going to put Elias in the main event of WrestleMania.
Elias.
But Elias is there. He's ready to go, and it's believable.
I'll walk with Elias.
That's kind of creepy.
Okay, so let's start from the top here. The Women's Elimination Chamber.
Like I said, your first one is always going to be your best one. Or your most, maybe not best one. Maybe best one's not the right word, but it'll be your most memorable. There's always a first.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, like, I don't know. It's like, you look at the Royal Rumbles and stuff like that, and I mean, we're kind of a little shy of that era, but do you think about Ric Flair winning the Royal Rumble?
No, you go think Hacksaw Jim Duggan, of course, because he's the first.
Shh. See? This is why you're the brains and I'm the voice.
Fair enough.
So, do you think about Hacksaw Jim Duggan winning, or do you think about the time when Stone Cold Steve Austin Iron Man threw the Royal Rumble and looked at his wrist?
Yes, you think of 97. That's where you think. Of course, that's with the Rumble. Maybe 99.
Maybe 99. Like, that's the thing. I don't think that the first has to necessarily be the only achievement it gets is being the first. And honestly, I don't think, because of the split cast that you have between Raw and SmackDown, you didn't have the best people for the job.
No, the first Women's Royal Rumble is going to be remembered more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they were able to take the stars from both shows. You throw in Kairi Sane from NXT, you throw in Ember Moon from NXT.
You throw in the stars from old.
You have the perfect mix.
Mm-hmm.
The meld of what you want for a Women's Royal Rumble. The men is, when you think about the men's Royal Rumble, what you're clamoring for is the Godfather. You're maybe not the Godfather, but you're waiting for that surprise. And it doesn't always have to be the NXT, but you want to see that guy from the past. You're like, yeah, like this year, Rey Mysterio. The Batista one was a little bit different because they hyped him up completely. But you want those guys that you weren't expecting in the Rumble. It's just that blast from the past.
But going back to Elimination Chamber here, like, personally, I loved the concept behind Absolution, and then, in my opinion, they fell flat.
Well, putting Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville in this match was a bad idea in the first place. I understand why you did it, because you're not going to put, I guess, Dana Brooke, who's been relegated to Titus Worldwide. You're not going to put Asuka in. You're not going to put Nia in. It made sense why they were in there, but you're right. It's not. If you were to have your first Women's Elimination Chamber have Charlotte, Becky, Bayley, Sasha, Bliss, and Natalya or Naomi, or that last spot you can cycle in anyone else, that one's going to be more memorable. I think how they started off the match, you think about it, it was Bayley and Sonya to start the match.
And just a quick kind of shout out to Bayley, like, good on her for, like, pretty much in one match, turning her reputation around. Like, the Royal Rumble, everyone was kind of going like, oh, hey, look, Bayley's doing things again. And then Elimination Chamber, she Iron Man'd the match, essentially. And she was able to actually put on a show. She told a storyline. You know, the 2-on-1 worked well.
Well, 2-on-1 was great. They had that moment. I know, how do you start the show? It'd been great if they would have been able to start the show with Absolution in the ring starting 1-2. But that would have been boring.
They would have stood there and done nothing.
Done nothing and just taunted. So this was the best way to get that idea into this match. You just have Sonya Bayley start, and then Mandy Rose comes in. Because that's the idea. You think of even the Riot Squad on SmackDown. It's gang beatdowns. It's these teams that are trying to force their way through this veteran crew. So yeah, having them come 1 and 3 into this match is exactly what this match needed. You couldn't do 1 and 2, so you do 1 and 3.
I think it was interesting that I feel like there was, I don't know how I would have done it differently, but I feel they missed an opportunity when they said like, yeah, this will break up other friendships. And you saw that with the Banks and Bayley thing. But like, there should have been a moment where their friendship was put to the test. And it was like, you either, you know, like, if one of them would have had a chance to pin the other one and then went, no, here, get up. And they would, because that was their whole thing going into Elimination Chamber was, we're too good of friends to lose kind of thing. And, you know, I just think that if there would have been a moment like 30 seconds before a countdown where they could have fought, where they could have looked at each other and just been like, no, we're not going to fight. Let's go.
I'm pretty sure they did that same thing just by not fighting, period. They don't think they have to tease it. The relationship between Absolution, you think about when they came up, it's still brand spanking new. When did they come up? Right after Survivor Series or right in that time frame? There's no need to tease it or even play off of it. They went in there. They didn't even think about attacking each other. That says just enough.
I will say that and I feel like this is an important thing to bring up because you can't talk about Absolution without talking about the Riot Squad. I think the loss of Paige just did something, and I don't know if it's because I'm a Paige fan personally, but I think that losing Paige caused this shift where WWE started putting more focus on the storyline with the Riot Squad, and Absolution's kind of starting to take that more back burner feel, because before it was, holy cow, look what Absolution's doing, Absolution, and it was like, oh wow, we have this entirely brand new knockoff of this thing that literally just happened the night before. And, like, that was the scary thing, was Absolution and Riot Squad. Like, you look, the team build-ups are the exact same thing. You have your bleach blonde, your raven hair, you know, alt leader, and then you have the fighter. Like, they are the same team on different shows. But now Riot Squad, suddenly, the storyline with Charlotte, which we'll get into once we talk a little bit more about SmackDown, it's getting better.
It's way better. And that's exactly it. You think about it, that was the main scare. You're copying, pasting. Going, here's Raw's. This one has Paige. Here's SmackDown. Here's Ruby Riott. Then you think about it, Sarah Logan wasn't on NXT that much.
Nope.
Ruby Riott was pretty good on there because she was feuding with, I think she was actually feuding with Sonya Deville right before they got called up.
Yeah.
So she had her television time. Liv Morgan did a 180. She was this face on the show, and now she's a heel.
And she pulls it well.
Yeah, she does. She's got that Bliss feel.
And speaking of Bliss, the heel tactics in the Elimination Chamber this year, both women and men, were really good. I think that the stuff that Bliss did, like especially the chase when she first came out, when she was climbing up the walls.
Well, before we get there, you missed two other entrants into the Rumble. Or into the Chamber. So you had Banks come in. I think this is one of those moments where Banks shined.
I think there were other people who shined better.
I tend to disagree. If you look at the moments she had, with the moments you're going to pull from the chamber, they're going to be the exact same ones that you always... Banks just knows how to tell the story a little bit better. I think that one of the pieces that stick out for me is she was in the corner trying to do her double knees to DeVille. All of a sudden, Mandy Rose comes in. She puts her shins on Mandy Rose's...
Pulls her into
the turnbuckle, goes back, and then does double knees to DeVille.
She pulled both of her spots at the same time.
Exactly.
In a creative way.
But those are the moments you're going to remember. Like I said, the first one you're always going to pull moments from. Those are the moments you're going to pull. You're also going to, like you said, and we'll get to it here in a minute, is the bliss moments. But on an interesting note, so the first elimination, Mandy Rose. So, what was it? Banks hit her with the bank statement.
Yeah.
Mandy Rose, in 1 month, is the first person eliminated from the first ever Elimination Chamber and the first person eliminated from the first ever Women's Royal Rumble.
We now have our female Baron Corbin.
I was going to say our female Jinder Mahal.
Hey, Jinder Mahal won a title.
Yes, but Jinder Mahal is don't get me wrong, I want Jinder to move on and do amazing things, but Jinder's the 50th. And I remember when when his whole storyline started, we're like, hey, this is WWE, he's just going to be a trivia question.
Yep.
The way he's been built up and he keeps going, I don't think that anymore.
No?
But now it's up to Mandy Rose not to be caught up in the name the first person eliminated from both first Women's Royal Rumble and first Elimination Chamber.
I feel like and maybe you're getting there, but like, I feel like we aren't talking enough about Mickie James. When she came in out of the chamber, she came in so hot and heavy. She tore up the place. She made the ring her own, and she held the spotlight for a good solid 3 to 5 minutes. Like it became the Mickie show.
It was, and you know what? She's the one who got the pin on DeVille with that West Coast pop modification off the top of the chamber.
Yeah.
Or off the top of the pod.
Yeah.
And then there was I think she was the next one eliminated from that match, but the fans booed and started chanting, "We want Mickie."
Yep.
Mickie James, as much as she's probably in the tail end of her career, has a lot left to play off of, and it's just they need to start playing off of it.
Well, and I think the thing is they've realized it comes with, it's a numbers game, but with the men, they have all their stars that they can look at and go, hey, look, this guy's done his time. He's had his chance to shine. Like Ziggler. Ziggler's a great example. Ziggler's had his chance to shine, and I feel like he could possibly have a renaissance, maybe. But now he even describes himself as this. He's the gatekeeper. And I feel like Mickie James could be that same person. She doesn't need to win. She doesn't need to win titles. She doesn't need to prove herself anymore. She can just fight matches. She can have storylines, and she can bring these new talents up. Imagine Ember Moon versus Mickie James before Ember Moon goes for a women's title. Like that's a good place to start.
Fair enough, but she can, if you want to call her the gatekeeper, you have to think about where she sits with title reigns. One more title reign for her puts her in a league of her own.
Yeah, she's in that sense she's a little bit closer to Cena.
Exactly. So if you have this good little soldier who's helping this talent, do you give her one more run? Doesn't have to be a long one. Think about how long Cena's was when he won his 16th. Not long at all. Do you give her that one run to say thank you for being a good soldier for us?
Mm. Good pin over Bliss would make for an interesting storyline.
Well, okay, so James got eliminated, and
Bliss looked horrified.
Fair enough, but they did it in a great way. They did a backstabber into a Bailey to belly. You took out someone who looked like she was on fire, ready to win, and you took her out strong with a double finisher.
Yep.
It wasn't just in something small and she's eliminated. No, 2 finishers, she's out. Which left to the cat and mouse game. with Bliss. So here you go. This is the part you wanted to go on.
So I like the climbing. The thing that I've always loved about Bliss is she is my favorite type of heel. And that's the type of heel that tells the story in her face. She's an actress. And I loved that about Punk. I loved that about Edge. I love these heels that can tell so much of a story just in the facial features they make. That's part of the reason I have a problem with Roman Reigns. He looks like a goof.
See, I'm the opposite. So they're climbing the cage. Sasha finally catches Bliss, knocks her out, goes for Bayley, hits Bayley off the pod, and Banks's her facial expressions. That is how I feel. I feel like Banks is stuck in a rut as a face, and her evil expressions are way better than her face expressions, if you want to go with that.
100%. 100%. I think that, I mean, to be fair, Banks really shouldn't have ever been a face. Like,
No.
She is that kind of, she's unfortunately going to end up as one of those wrestlers who, I mean, look at New Day once they started getting popular. Technically, they were heels. And they were just so over. And I think that's what would end up happening to Banks is she is so over. That even when she's not doing anything useful, when she's not doing anything good, the crowd still roars for her the way they used to for Bayley. And honestly, I know that it's obviously probably going to be Bliss who turns, but imagine if Bayley did.
I think, yeah, it would be. But you know what? Bayley is the John Cena of the women's division. She doesn't have. She doesn't. No, not the. But she's the face.
Yeah.
She is the Roman Reigns. You don't turn those people. Maybe you turn Roman still, but you don't turn John Cena heel, and you don't turn Bayley heel.
There are some people who, honestly, naturally, I don't think could do a good job being a heel, and I think that heel's normally the easier job. Getting someone to hate you is a lot easier. You say, I mean, look at how good Jericho is at it. He just says, he comes to Calgary and he says, hey, by the way, Edmonton's better than here. And suddenly...
So Bayley Banks WrestleMania?
I hope so. I hope that we finally start getting those Bayley Banks classics that we used to get. I'm worried that the time is up on that, but I'm hoping that we can get a good, like, feud storyline. And that's the big thing with WrestleMania is there's all these title matches and everything like that, but what happened to the feuds, the things that were just culminated at WrestleMania?
Well, the Banks and Bayley, I don't know if it would work once Bayley got in that role. How hard would it be to do a Brett Stone Cold double switch?
Yeah.
You have Banks going in as the heel, you have Bayley going in as the face. By the end of the night, it's reversed. Mm-hmm. How hard would it be to do that?
That's a almost once in a lifetime moment, though. How did you feel about the ending, like about Bliss winning and the promo she cut at the end?
I think the Bliss promo was very weak. So you go back to that interview. You have the fans chanting, "You deserve it." She's tearing up and she's going, "This is for all the women. Be what you want to be. Dream big." And that seemed very sincere. And it's almost like she had like a light bulb moment. It's like, well, you guys are never going to do that. I'm the best. No one's ever going to... Anyone in this arena is not going to live their dreams. It was like she went from a moment of like, hey, this is real, to like, hey, this is real. I'm happy to be the first ever to remember, oh yeah, I'm playing a character. And maybe that was in design. I just didn't care for the way that whole interview played out.
And I'm the kind of person who, when I see these faults, these issues, these things that are normally screw-ups, I like to look at what if they were by design. And you talked about a double turn. And to me, you know what would be better than a Banks Bayley double turn? An Asuka Bliss double turn. Asuka could easily make a heel.
She was doing it in NXT before she got hurt.
Yeah. Asuka would, like, she mocks her opponents most of the time. When Ember Moon came out in the Royal Rumble, she was like, ha ha ha, look at your arm, you're all busted up, kind of thing. So I think that Asuka could make a great heel. And the pseudo storyline that's going on between Bliss and James, it could spell a turn. And you know what? I think Bliss could play a face, maybe not as good as she plays a heel, but I mean, she's just not. She's missing something as a heel where when she cuts her promos, when she delivers these like awful heel things, it's almost like she doesn't want to.
She's too nice.
And so badly in my heart do I want that to be a character thing.
Yeah. Huh. That could be a very interesting twist. But just like the first ever Elimination Chamber, the first ever women's number 6 spot wins.
Huh.
So, I don't know if that was by design, but the first ever Elimination Chamber's 6 spot wins. And she's with good company, the first ever winner of the Elimination Chamber, Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
So, if she can even parallel her career just a tad to Shawn Michaels, she's doing pretty well for herself.
As long as she doesn't break her back.
Yeah, do we need to touch on the tag team title match?
I'm sorry, I can't. I really, so badly do I want to see something new out of the Raw tag team division. I'm done. The tag team titles right now are circling the same people, and WWE keeps on going, but what if we gave it to this person? And the fans go, yeah! And they go, no, we're just kidding. We're just going to keep it on Cesaro and Sheamus. Or in the SmackDown case, they're, oh, we're just going to keep it on the Usos. Or, oh, we're just going to keep it on New Day. And I just feel like the only way to make headway in the tag team division is try and put it on Titus Worldwide. Try and put it on Dash and Dawson.
Well, they went into the match and they said, hey, you know what? Titus Worldwide has beaten the bar 3 times so far. They're a real competitor. Well, we'll get into what happened on Raw, but they lost.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think Titus Worldwide was going in their win.
There is a fun fact about that, though. The last time that Titus and Sheamus were at Vegas's center, whatever their venue is called, Titus actually beat Sheamus, and there's a comment dropped in the commentary about it. It's dropped as a statistic, but it's something to the effect of, oh well, in first season of brand new teams on the home field, Titus is undefeated, and it's this really it's something that Dana Brooke told Corey or whatever, but it's a really fun statistic, and that's how commentary should be done.
Oh yeah,
like. Not this scripted Michael Cole, oh, for the love of mankind, as he looks at his clipboard to say it. Outside of that, yeah, the match wasn't all that special.
I'm not a big fan of the bar finisher either.
Really?
The white noise springboard.
I thought you would like that because you love tag team finishers.
I do. I'm just not a big fan of that one.
Mm.
But on the other hand, I gotta admit, Sheamus's music, that entrance, probably is one of my favorite entrances.
Yeah, that's because it's a callback to the NWO.
Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Right underneath. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna try and touch on this one very briefly because this will come up later in the show, but the Bray Wyatt Matt Hardy match.
Okay.
I like the entrances. Matt coming out, Bray coming out. Matt's not there. Matt starts singing the obsolete song. And then that's about when everything stopped being good. The match itself, if you watch it, it's not bad. Like the whole moment when like Bray does his like thing in the corner and he like props upside down and Matt starts clapping.
The spot monkey clap, yeah.
Yeah, the spot monkey clap. He's like, "Oh, ha, 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 you're so good." Like Matt is the best accidental heel. He just mocks his opponents and it's great. But Bray Bray is stale to the fans, and unfortunately, everything he touches now is poison.
Well, I don't think it's Bray's fault in this situation. I think it's the fact that they've already given this match away for free,
like 3 times.
But the one that sticks out for me is they gave it away on the 25th anniversary.
Yep.
The crowd was poison in the the center, the Manhattan Center, or wherever it is.
Yep.
It was poison because they were already mad about not being able to watch the show. There was a lot of stuff where they were upset, so the fans were poison. I wasn't a big fan of that match. They should have kept building it. The first time these two should have fought should have been at the Elimination Chamber or at the Royal Rumble.
They need to fight. The other thing is, and I know WWE's cutting back on budget and they have to be careful about blood and all these rules, but if you're gonna give anybody a stipulation match, if you're gonna give any 2 people a stipulation match, Hardy and Wyatt are the people to do it with. That's a match that I feel like is too kooky, too zany, too weird to just be a singles match.
I just don't know if Matt Hardy should have won this match.
Fair enough.
I think they should have. They like their 50-50 booking.
Yeah.
Bray Wyatt should have won this one. I see where they're going, but I just don't see the payoff being Bray Wyatt winning the feud.
Yeah.
I don't see that being the payoff. Matt Hardy should be the one who wins the feud, but Wyatt needs a win in there somewhere. Let's go back to Jax Asuka, though.
Oh, yeah, I skipped that, sorry.
Once again, not a big fan of the match. Not because of the match itself, the story it was telling.
I actually think the booking for it, specifically, the way the match played out, was actually really strong. Nia looked strong throughout the match. She looked like a dominant, irresistible force. And then Asuka kept her streak going. And so you were able to keep... Nia doesn't look weak. Asuka stole that win away in the breaths of the last second kind of thing. There's room for that match, that face-off, to happen again. Asuka wins the title. The first person who has her number, outside of Alexa Bliss getting a rematch clause, should be Nia Jax.
I agree. I don't agree with doing this match so soon. If you look back at how Asuka was in NXT, she was Jax-esque. You put someone in the ring with her, it was a bad idea. You don't want to fight Asuka. You're not ready for Asuka. Yet Jax looks more than ready for Asuka. Yes, you keep the win on Asuka, but you make her look a little bit weaker than you should going into WrestleMania of all places.
And just, quick, look into the future. If it's literally just Bliss versus Asuka, no interference, nobody gets involved, should it be a squash?
Not after this match. I think it could have been. I think it could have been a regular Asuka match to go, hey, oh my goodness, she's been undefeated for X amount of days for a reason.
Almost 3 years.
So, if you're already you're building her up as, hey, she's never been beaten, how can you put someone in there, dominate her like they did and go, oh, she just did it by the skin of her teeth? The pin, I didn't care for the pin. I think Jax saved that pin at the very end just by trying to give that little less... You want to make your opponent look lucky or plucky or whatever you want to say, and Jax was frozen up until the last millisecond where the ref hit the 3, and you can see how her body goes up to try and kick out. It's visually the saving point of that pin, because the pin looks sloppy.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? It's live entertainment. You can't make everything look perfect. Just like the Twisted Bliss, going back to the Elimination Chamber, where she does a Twisted Bliss off the pod, and then all of a sudden it's a bank statement. It's very choppy, and you can't predict these things during your live matches. I do think that one little move that Jax did made it look a lot better than it was.
And I think in that future booking, I think that because there is that storyline relationship between Bliss and Jax, you can't have that match without Jax somehow being involved.
Yeah. You can't.
I guess next is the Rousey signing?
Yeah.
The more I see of Rousey, the more worried I get.
Yeah.
I think she can wrestle. I think that she could honestly wrestle. I have zero confidence in her ability to talk. None whatsoever. And I don't think she's going to be able to sell. I think they're not
going to ask her to sell.
They're going to have to book her like Goldberg.
How about Brock?
Goldberg took less bumps than Brock.
Yeah, I don't see Rousey selling. No, I don't.
They have to treat her even more of a heavy hitter than Asuka.
And she's got Reigns disease. You can't give her a microphone.
Oh gosh, no.
Or she'll dig herself a bigger hole. You can't.
I think the fans started to boo her at one point.
Why? I think the whole Rousey thing we've wanted it since she's shown up at WrestleMania 31. But now that we have her, we're like, okay, this is 3 years out from being the baddest woman in the world. You got her promos, which, aren't that great.
She looks scared.
And you give her that music.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The 2 or 3 times in recent history where WWE has used licensed music. I mean, when Punk came out to Cult of Personality, it was so fitting. Her coming out to Bad Reputation, I think it's called, is just so, like, she should be coming out to something Brock Lesnar level. She should come out looking like a monster.
Yeah, that song does not fit her at all.
Also, I feel that as much as I want to harp on Rousey for what she's doing, whoever is writing the stuff that Angle is saying and this whole concept with, oh, well, Angle's really sick, and so he's saying things he doesn't mean to. And then the fact that they followed through with it, like, this week on Raw, Angle better come out saying, like, no, they're just keeping me down. They threatened to fire me or something. Like, I can't take any more of this, oh, well, actually, I've had pneumonia or whatever, and, that makes you really dumb. Like, you say things that you don't mean to say.
I have watched Elimination Chamber twice now. And the first time I watched Kurt Angle in that, I thought it was the worst thing I've ever seen. But watching it a second time, you know what? He took garbage and made gold. Because if you watch...
I wouldn't say gold.
If you watch his facial expressions, go back and watch his facial expressions during, like, when they're talking to her, and then all of a sudden Triple H, like, goes to the back and starts talking to Kurt. Watch Kurt's facial expressions. Because I thought it was garbage at first. I think that saved it again. Like, it's just these small things that are saving it. And you know what? I thought the stuff Kurt said was garbage, but I understand where he was trying to... He was trying to be sarcastic. Maybe it was a little bit dry. Maybe it wasn't that great. But it got the point across. I ended up liking it a little bit more the second time I watched it than the first.
It's actually funny that you bring up that moment, though, because there's this really, in my opinion, maybe it was just because it was the first time I watched it, but what felt like a forever pause where it should have been Triple H touches Angle on the back, Angle looks confused, and then Rousey goes, hey, Kurt, is there something you wanted to say? But there's this long, just silent pause. And then Rousey remembers, oh yeah, I'm supposed to say, Kurt, is there something you wanted to say? And that falls back on Rousey again. But, oh my gosh, it was so awkward watching it the first time. I was like, this is Bush League.
Well, so I think there's a couple things I didn't care about that. The first one was, they've already told her she has a match at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
We all knew it, but coming out and going, hey, you got a match at WrestleMania, I didn't think that was the right way to do it. Hey, just let the match build up organically. You don't have to go, it's not a title match, but you have a match at WrestleMania. The other thing, hilarious, I feel like he's going to be a little bit of a theme through this. Kurt Angle's little flub. I remember that you embarrassed him at WrestleMania 21. I mean 31. Well, if you go back, Kurt Angle fought Shawn Michaels in a hell of a match at WrestleMania 21. So maybe he's thinking, hey, my great match, WrestleMania 21. That's what they remember. Oh wait, no, I wasn't. But HBK, second time in this podcast, coming from Calgary,
Mr. WrestleMania,
coming out of Calgary, where he's not the favorite. We've mentioned him twice in the.
Damn, he's good. I will say though that the best part about wrestling, and this is, I can never not laugh about this, is every time something really bad happens that in the real world there'd be some real serious consequences, they're just like, no, we'll have a match over this. Like, Stone Cold almost gets run over and murdered. What do? Let's have a match. Like, wrestling, I love it to bits, but it's so dumb.
Once again, watching this twice, you should see the jump that Triple H gives Rousey. It's kind of like Stone Cold Rock-esque, where Stone Cold would give Rock a stunner, and then the Rock would just go up and
fly out of the ring.
And the fact that Rousey, who's smaller than Triple H, all of a sudden Triple H is up in the air and then down through a table. You're like, oh.
In a very awkward belly-to-belly suplex.
It's ridiculous, and then you go, she's badass. Because whenever you saw The Rock get that stunner and he starts like flipping, bouncing off the ropes and landing, you're like, that's ridiculous. But that's one hell of a stunner.
Yeah. It's funny because as a kid I remember watching those stunners and be like, oh my gosh, that he hit The Rock so hard, and that sold it. And now looking back on it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Shawn Michaels versus Hogan at SummerSlam.
3. It's the
Shawn Michaels counter.
It's the HBA or it's the HBK counter. But the slap.
You know what? Wow.
You gotta love Steph. I think whoever she steps in the ring with, she's like, I'm gonna slap you, and they're like, go for it. Because that slap, I do not want to be on the other end of that. I'm sorry. I don't know if you could pay me enough to go, hey, Steph.
You wouldn't have to pay me anything to have Stephanie McMahon slap me.
Oh, God. Okay, well, if we ever have that moment where we are like, hey, Steph, please slap my brother, I'm not going to be one taking that. I'm sorry.
Just let me take off my glasses first.
But, so slap, then the crowd, you fucked up.
That was the chant of the night.
I that stopped me quiet. Audible. Yeah.
I laughed. I was like, yes, you did. And it was one of the first times where I felt Stephanie was actually gonna get it for what she does. Because I actually really hate Stephanie. Like, as far as like her character is concerned, because she tears down the price, the value of all the wrestlers. Like, she makes them worth less. Not worthless, just worth less. And so, less Stephanie would be better, but if they're actually going to make it where Stephanie has to take some payback and gets her butt kicked, then I'm all for it.
So, I think after Raw, everything came a little bit clearer. But who is Rousey's partner?
Angle?
Yeah.
It's not Strowman. Strowman's going to be in something. It's not The Rock, because Rock has said for a while now he doesn't want to do it. That's what it's been in the rumor mill. So, that leaves Angle. And Angle was one of the ones in the rumor mill. And, I mean...
Well, since last year's WrestleMania when he went into the Hall of Fame, I think the major consensus was Triple H versus Angle at WrestleMania.
And I mean, they kind of pushed towards it at Survivor Series, but now we're actually getting it, and I don't actually want this to be a mixed tag match. I want this to be Rousey versus Steph with Angle and Triple H in the corners. I would much prefer that, because to me, the whole mixed tag thing just it neuters the match. It because at some point Angle will get tagged in, and then the whole story's going to be Triple H versus Angle, and then Rousey's just going to be standing off to the side. And that's poor use of Rousey. Because I don't think that Rousey and Angle are going to have the dynamic that, say, Miz and Asuka do. Where it makes sense why Asuka's in the corner, because Miz is an idiot. Men's Elimination Chamber?
I think that's where we're at now.
Okay. First thing I want to just kind of quickly talk as we touch on this is there was a lot of talk of like, well, this has never been done before, and how are they going to do this? And this is ridiculous. 7 men in the Elimination Chamber, that's preposterous. And I feel like maybe intentionally, but everyone forgot there was a tag team Elimination Chamber that happened at one point. Like, did we just forget that happened? Because wasn't that like 6 teams, which is 12 guys?
And Xavier and Torito.
Exactly. Exactly. For people to get upset about a 7-man Elimination Chamber, well, what's going to happen? Well, you start off with 3, duh. And what a 3 to start with? Putting Miz first, because he lost. Good storyline reason. And then, hey, we're shoehorning in Rollins and Balor. Okay. Then they have to start the match as well.
Technically, they didn't start the match. Elias started that match. And you know what? Elias has been doing great work. I think my favorite thing about his little sets is he always, hey, he'll throw that punch at the crowd. Hey, I know you guys are used to seeing your loved ones behind bars. Hey, I'm going to sing you a song. It's not for you, but I'm going to sing you a song. Fans start booing after a minute.
Cheering him.
After a minute and a half, all screaming, walk with Elias twice.
Yeah. In
perfect unison. And then all of a sudden he goes, I'm going to stop. And they all go, yay! And he goes, you know what? I just hit that right pitch, so I'm going to keep going.
Like, he actually, that's why I'm so excited to see Elias, is because he actually has a really good control of the crowd. And that's something that you can't be taught. No. We have seen this time and time again. You cannot teach how to control a crowd. And Elias did it. And I don't know if there's anybody else in that match besides maybe The Miz. Balor doesn't talk much.
No.
Rollins basically only reacts to what Reigns does.
Reigns shouldn't talk.
Nope, sorry, Braun. Braun should always be on the mic. Braun is hilarious. They need to let Braun do more Braun things. He needs to break more double bases.
I'm going to make him my pet beastie boy.
I need more Braun in my life. So
more Braun, less silly Snapchat video recording. But, alright. So otherwise, we have the new Jeff Jarrett Elias. We have Braun Strowman who chases him into the pod. Braun finally gets in the pod. And he's breathing, fogging up the window. I thought that was a perfect visual to go, this guy is a monster.
The best thing about Braun in this match was not his performance. He's going to be another trivia question as far as... I'm sure he'll do more than his trivia question, but he will be the trivia question of who's the only person to ever eliminate 5 people in an elimination chamber.
And not win the elimination chamber.
But more so, the fact of what he did while he was in the pod, he got me multiple times not looking at the action, because before the commentators ever pointed it out, I was like, oh my god, he's stretching. Everyone else stands in the pods very stoically. They watch the matches, they'll observe. Braun didn't give a shit. He was stretching. He was moving his arms. He was pulling his legs back. He was warming up. I think I even saw him do the Brock Lesnar dance at one point. Braun doesn't give a shit, and it was amazing. And once again, Braun doesn't get the respect he deserves. So going into the Elimination Chamber, we're now sitting with Balor, Miz, and Rollins.
You mean Rollins, Miz, and Blue Balor.
Why does everyone have a problem with Blue Balor?
Because everyone has a problem with
Blue Tista.
It looks exactly the exact same. And people gave Batista way too much problems and then are letting Finn go away with this. I don't know what it is about that certain shade of blue on people.
But it just makes people hate them.
But I think Balor should put that little blue outfit back in his closet.
I actually think that he could break that out again if he goes to SmackDown.
Perfect. But right now, when he's not Mr. SmackDown Live, let's put that back in the closet.
I really like the jacket.
Anyways. But starting off the match, you had The Miz. Hey, Miz looking at Seth. Let's get Balor. No, I'm good. Miz looking at Balor. Too sweet. No, I'm good. Balor and Rollins going, let's get him. Yeah.
I prayed. Like, just in that moment, like that 30-second moment, I really hoped Rollins would just either, like, do the, like, shield fist bump or a too sweet towards Balor, and Balor would reciprocate. I was like, come on, just give me that.
A shield fist and a too sweet to the
to the fist. That would be perfect.
I think that match right there, those three, I think that should be the Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania.
1000%. They're already building to it with Raw.
I think those three, I don't think they need to add any more. I know there's rumors that it's going to be Strowman and Elias, which is just Chamber minus 1.5.
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to say. But those, I think, let those three go to town. The chemistry between them was unreal.
Oh, 100%. And you know what? When he's feuding with the right people, I can bite the bullet and say that Balor is okay in the mid-card.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts me because when Balor won the Universal, when he was the first Universal champ, I was the first person to run around the room and go, yeah, Balor, yeah, because I love his style. And Rollins is pretty much the exact same. They both use the sling blade. I can live with him being the workhorse champ. And this year alone, those three have shown that title belongs to the workhorse. Seth Rollins with his Iron Man hour and some in that gauntlet match. Balor in the Royal Rumble. And just recently on Raw, what happened with Miz. I'm sorry, like, the Intercontinental Championship is the workhorse champion.
I think that's going to change a little bit now that the belt's going to... Well, let's assume with everything that's going on with Brock Lesnar, that's going to change a little soon.
Hopefully.
And you're going to give it to the guy who doesn't mind being a workhorse. Let's just hope that the fans can let him be that workhorse.
Mm-hmm.
That match was really a weird layout. You had Cena come in, then you had Reigns come in, no elimination, letting everyone get their little piece of the pie. Then Braun comes in and lays everyone out. Favorite quote of that match? Braun, what's your weapon of choice? Human beings. Like, he's picking up Balor and just throwing him at Reigns. Like, it was amazing. The moment where him and Miz were on top of the pod and he's using Miz's face as like trying to get out of the pod, just banging on that plexiglass. Like,
yeah. I will say that I actually had a moment of hope, and once again, big Braun fan, but I had a moment of hope when everybody got their spot in on him, that he was actually going to be eliminated, and then Elias tried for the electric chair.
So, fair enough. So before that, Miz gets eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Those two have been feuding since he got him to get thrown into a garbage truck.
Attempted murder.
Let's have a match.
Let's have a match.
So, and then Elias hides in his pod, like, closes the pod. Doesn't even have to hold it. He's just like, no, thank you.
Well, and that's the thing, is both him and Bliss did that, but I think because of the time spent in the pod just watching, and once again, the way Elias sold it, where he was just like, nope. It was, Elias did it better.
So, going back to your point, they do a 4-way shield bomb. Cena hits the AA, kicks out at a 1 count. Roman Reigns does his spear, kicks out at a 2 count. Rollins with a stomp. the part, if I wish Strowman wouldn't have rolled out to the outside for the coup de grace. You're right. I think after all 4 of those moves, all 4 of them doggy pile on, that should have been the end. For Strowman. Because then you still protect the guy.
Yep.
You're like, hey, Strowman had to take 4 guys, 4 finishers in a row to be pinned. I will get to how he loses later, but that seemed a lot better. Then, yes, Elias comes in and and then, yeah.
I realize now, because we've mentioned that Miz has been eliminated, we have to backtrack for a second. There was a moment of stupidity, and I cannot forgive it. The 4-person it kick, I was like, these guys have been sitting here for 5 minutes, pretending to be so stunned that they're stuck on their knees. And they're just like, oh, like it was that moment in Mortal Kombat where it's like, finish him, and they're all just kind of like, whoa. Like, there was the it kick thing. It works well when it's one person, but I think they even did it on Raw, or yeah, it was Raw where it was 2 people or whatever, and just you can't keep doing it with multiple people. The it kick works for one person. You add more people, and suddenly it becomes this comedic spot, and it loses the luster of him basically poking fun at the fact that Daniel Bryan can't wrestle anymore.
Right before we eliminate Elias from the Elimination Chamber by Braun.
Sadness.
Small things, that the Elias character didn't really work in NXT as well as it's working here on the main roster.
Which is funny.
But go back and watch how Elias delivers his elbow drop. He puts his fist down as he's going, but he puts his other hand on top.
That extra force.
To show, like, go, I am driving I thought that, I'm like, alright.
That's the thing, is like, it didn't take me till Elimination Chamber to go, this guy's legitimate. I've known for a while. I walk with Elias gladly, and you know what? I can't wait to see what they do with him, and hopefully it's good things.
Well, it's funny. You have Strowman, who is over with that crowd right now. He takes Elias, does his power slam, eliminates him. That was the only time in that match where Strowman didn't get cheered.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a quiet mix. It was quiet with a smattering of boos, but then everyone jumped in to go, nah, get out of here, Elias. But that shows you how much the fans are, like, into Elias.
Yep.
So. And then right after that, Cena gets pinned.
Just quick conversation about the power slam. If it was anybody else, like, even if it was Brock Lesnar's finisher, there's nobody who can pull that off the way that Braun does. Braun looks bigger and scarier than everybody in the locker room. And I believe that if I got power slammed by Braun Strowman, I'd be dead. Like, not just like, oh, haha, I'm knocked out dead. Like, dead, put me in the ground, flatlined, no more. That move, for something that other people do regularly in their matches, is such a believable move.
It is. Balor, next eliminated. But I think his showcase, how everyone had it a little bit. Between the Royal Rumble and letting him run with it and that little showcase, you look at the sheets and they say WWE has no faith in Balor. If they had no faith in Balor,
why are they letting him run the things?
Exactly. And you know what? He had his little thing. Then you see him go up to the top. He hits the coup de grace on Roman Reigns, and he grabs, and then all of a sudden, before he can even go for the pin, Strowman grabs him and gives him the power slam to eliminate him. They made a comment saying if it wasn't for Braun, Roman could have been eliminated. I agree. Mm-hmm. I think that was the most vulnerable Roman had been in that match. And I think that the fact that they had the time to point that out in the match, you know what? Yeah, I think that was the only time Roman looked like you could have pinned him.
Mm-hmm.
And all that does is if they want, if Reigns beats Lesnar at WrestleMania, that gives them one more person that can fight Roman Reigns and have it believable that, you know what, Balor can beat Reigns.
You know, and it's funny because 7 men went into a match to go face one person. Right now we're seeing pretty much the same thing on SmackDown, where it's like a bunch of guys going for the belt to face one person. And yet, for some reason, when I look at Raw, I go, world title contenders. I look at SmackDown and I'm like, they got Kevin Owens, they got AJ Styles, they got Nakamura.
John Cena, who was actually in that 6-man match.
Yeah, well, John Cena's transferable between both, and John Cena's John Cena. But, you know, it's one of those things, like, SmackDown really feels like it's lacking star power, and hopefully the post-WrestleMania draft will balance that a little.
See, and I think I love the way SmackDown's built, because you totally neglected the fact that it's right now Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, Jinder Mahal fighting for the United States title.
Yeah, and those all feel like people who should be in the United States title picture.
You think Randy Orton should be in the United States title picture?
I am so done with Randy Orton. Randy Orton can retire for all I care.
No, I think they still need Mr. Randy Orton.
Randall Keith Orton.
Once again, you know, Strowman beats Rollins. Reigns throws him into the plexiglass. Braun didn't get the power slam on Reigns in the end segment, so they protected the power slam.
Yeah.
And then it took, like, how many of Roman's finisher / signature moves.
Man, he was cheating. Man,
in that last minute of the match where he's spearing and leaving Superman punches to win that match.
There was something that happened, and I want to say it was when he was facing off against Rollins. Maybe it was somebody else. But there's something that Reigns does that is obnoxious. And it's worse than a lot of the other stuff he does. And it's where he gets a move that should debilitate him. Anyone else would collapse to the ground or fall into the corner. But somehow he uses the momentum to turn it into a Superman punch and then goes, and I'm tired now. And that is not okay.
By the way, Roman's sleeping.
Roman sleeping.
That's all we need to touch on that one. Roman is sleeping.
Yeah, and then, I mean, Roman gets it on Strowman, and that's the pay-per-view. And, I mean, when you look at it, this pay-per-view was really a moot point. Like, we all knew Reigns was going to face Brock. Alexa Bliss winning just basically meant that nothing had to happen there. We all knew what was happening with Ronda, so nothing had to happen there. The Bar didn't lose, so nothing had to happen there.
Bar and the Wyatt match, those were extra matches.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't built, and I think that one hurt the Wyatt match too. They weren't built. They were built, but not...
It was thrown in as a, hey, we know that this is a storyline we have going right now. Here's a match.
Here's a match at the pay-per-view.
Instead of throwing in some cruiserweights or something. Yeah. And I mean, the same thing can be said about the Jack Soska match.
They built that one up. They gave it a stipulation. They had 3 matches booked for the pay-per-view. They realized, hey, we have 3 hours to fill. We need to figure this out a little bit more.
All I'm getting at is that the pay-per-view was a net zero. Like, nothing changed. At all.
No, nothing changed at all.
And it was an exciting nothing changed, and there was some cool stuff that happened when nothing changed. But nothing changed. So that's going to end our Elimination Chamber wrap-up. As always, I've been Matt.
I'm still Dave.
Legends come and go, but icons never die.